Welcome to my channel. My name is Lauren from Pinkbird Originals, and in today's video I want to talk to you about everything I wish I'd known before I purchased my first multi-needle embroidery machine for my home business. If you are currently working with a single needle flatbed embroidery machine and your hobby is starting to grow into a business, then you're going to want to purchase a multi-needle embroidery machine to reduce production times. Single needle embroidery machines are far more labour intensive than multi-needle embroidery machines, and they require constant supervision. Having to manually thread the machine each time there is a colour change can be very time consuming, and thread colours shouldn't be mixed up with the colour sequence in a design. For example, the objects in an embroidery design might need to stitch out in a certain order to avoid gapping and registration issues. So the same colour thread might appear multiple times during a stitch out. Just because a design has 3 colours in it, it doesn't necessarily mean there'll only be 3 colour changes. And that's where multi-needles come in handy by eliminating the need to make these colour changes manually. So in this video today, we're going to be addressing what you want your multi-needle embroidery machine for, the general differences between multi-needles as in their internal mechanisms, what features to look for, and the usability of the embroidery machine. Purchasing a multi-needle embroidery machine represents a significant and quite literally sizable investment for anybody. When buying a multi-needle embroidery machine, you should expect to pay anything between £6,000 to £17,000, maybe even more, and that's not including VAT a lot of the time. And when I say multi-needle, I'm referring to anything from Brothers 6-needle embroidery machine all the way up to the colossal 24-needle ZSK embroidery machine. But ultimately, before you go out there and start comparing every embroidery machine ever built, you have to establish what will you be using that embroidery machine for the most. And that's really important, because why would you want to purchase a £13,000 15-needle embroidery machine with an enormous sewing field and then only embroider 1 colour logos onto t-shirts? You could purchase a smaller embroidery machine. Equally, if you start off too small and you're planning on making enormous projects, you might find that you have spent a lot of money and you've really limited yourself on what you can achieve. While you obviously want to save as much money on your investment as possible, there are times when smaller multi-needles just aren't up to the task, and you may need to invest in a larger machine to accommodate your needs. Drawing on personal experience, an example of this would be when I purchased my first multi-needle embroidery machine. I purchased the Brother PR655, and because of the issues I had with it, within that same year I purchased the 12-needle Happy Japan embroidery machine, which you can see here in the video. My big mistake was not looking at the projects I was already making for my business. For example, all of my patch designs used about 9 colours on average, and I purchased a machine with only 6 needles, so I didn't eliminate the need for colour changes. Next thing I failed to do was check what the Brothers maximum sewing field was, and that was 300mm by 200mm. While that is relatively large, it wasn't suitable for the square designs that I was embroidering onto the backs of denim jackets, as those designs didn't fit in the rectangular hoop. And that's why it's important to establish what projects you'll be making on your embroidery machine before purchasing. Then, once you know what you want to use your embroidery machines for, it's time to establish whether or not the machines you're looking at are capable of completing the projects you want to make. Not all multi-needle embroidery machines are built to handle heavy-duty production or even prolonged production. For example, machines that count how many hours of work they do each day are generally not suitable to be run 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. as I have recently found out. So while you might be getting the cheaper machine to start with to save money, you may end up spending a lot more on regular maintenance for that particular machine. So when you're making inquiries, it's worth asking what is the machine made of inside, and if you are planning on embroidering on larger, heavier garments, see what attachments you can get for the embroidery machine that can take the weight of the garment to better support it, so you're not putting as much strain on the machine itself. Try making a list that starts with what's most important to you and the type of business you have in mind, and gradually work down to the least important things that are more of a convenience factor. You might find that some multi-needles out there will have features unique to them that you won't even find on other embroidery machines as an optional extra. Here's the list I made to help me choose my second machine after I made the mistake with the Brother PR. I'm running my business from home, so obviously I don't want to disturb my neighbours too much. So the most important factor for me was low noise. Second was a large sewing area specifically for those denim jackets. Again, because I'm in a house, space is limited, so the machine needed to be compact. I wanted it to be easy to operate because at the time, even though I'd been embroidering for a while, I still wasn't particularly confident in myself and my embroidery ability, and I was afraid that when I bought my first industrial machine that they'd be too dissimilar and I just find it hard to use. So I needed something that was easy to operate. The next big thing was good support from the reseller. So I wanted to know that if I ever ran into an issue with the embroidery machine, there would be someone available to come and help me. Then I really wanted to have an automatic needle threader because it's just such a good, convenient thing to have. But in time, I quickly learned that it is very rare for true industrial machines to have that automatic needle threader that the Brother embroidery machines have. They say it breaks too easily. I disagree, but you know, what can you do? It is what it is. The next important thing was at least 10 needles. I looked at what my patches were, how many colours were in them, and they were all about 9 to 10 colours, so I needed something that was higher than that. The next thing I wanted was a cap frame. Ideally, I wanted this included in the price, but I wanted at least to know that it was available as an optional extra. And the last but one thing was the laser pointer for the convenience of lining up projects. Say if I made a mistake, I needed to go back or I needed to embroider over something again. I wanted a laser pointer to make that easier. And then the final thing was Wi-Fi, so I could upload embroidery designs directly from my laptop to the embroidery machine without the use of a flash drive or USB stick. The machines I have now do have Wi-Fi, but I've never actually used it. I've just carried on with the USB stick because it's what I was used to. But it's nice to know that Wi-Fi was there as an optional extra. So, as I was planning to work from home, I needed the embroidery machine to be as quiet as possible. The Happy Japan HCS2 and the HCS3 is the newest model, that actually has noise suppression technology built into the embroidery machine. So this was already a clear front runner for my purposes. In comparison, the Brother 10 needle, which I briefly owned, didn't have this technology and it was a lot louder. I have done a full comparison between the Brother 10 needle embroidery machine and the Happy Japan 12 needle. I will leave a link for that down in the description below. Something that I find is often overlooked when shopping for a multi-needle embroidery machine is the embroidery machine's operating system. If you go to trade shows, usually they demonstrate the embroidery machine by running it so you can see its stitch quality, and because the machine is running, you don't often get a chance to practically use the operating system to find out how fluid and user-friendly it is. A good interface can make a massive difference to your whole experience of using the machine, whereas a poorly designed menu system can leave you wanting. I personally like having a touchscreen, and I like having the option available to make some basic edits to the design, such as resizing it after uploading it to the embroidery machine. There are other machines out there, such as the Tajima Sai and I believe the Melko, but I'm not 100% sure of that, where all of the editing features are done separate to the embroidery machine. But if you've already had some experience using touchscreens, then swapping to a machine without a screen can be a weird transition. Or in the case of the Tajima Sai, it did have the touchscreen. There just wasn't as much available editing options on it. And that's because the Tajima Sai came with its own digitizing software. This is a rare sort of thing. Normally you have to purchase digitizing software on top, which is why I liked the Happy Japan user interface, because it does offer a great range of minor edits within the machine itself. And the other really nice thing about Happy Japan is the operating system is the same whether you purchase the 7-needle embroidery machine or even if you purchase the Rolls-Royce equivalent, the HCU embroidery machine. The user interface is the same, so there's no relearning how to use the embroidery machine after you upgrade. But to summarize, all embroidery machines come with different abilities, and it's up to you to establish what is important to you and which of these abilities will benefit your work style the most. The best thing you can do when seeking out your first multi-needle embroidery machine is take your designs with you, take the garments with you that you're going to be embroidering on, and try the embroidery machines out for yourself. If you're in the UK, there's a really great event called Printwear and Promotion in Birmingham. If you are thinking of purchasing a multi-needle embroidery machine, I strongly recommend you check that out. It's a free event and all of the embroidery machine distributors are there. And then you'll be able to decide which machine is the best fit for your business. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you found this video helpful. If you could subscribe to my channel, that would be great, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks again for watching. Bye bye.